Hello, welcome to Caesar's Snack Sandwich. Today I'm taking another look at Beanstalk. I kind of owe it to myself and I owe it to a lot of people to kind of explain the new features of Beanstalk. So I took some time today to read through the whole docs again and double check my stuff and make sure I understand everything. And now I'm going to explain it. I have a nice big flowchart for you and I'm going to go through everything. I thought about, just going through the new stuff and then telling you that the other video was already in existence. But I figure, why not just make a whole video that covers pretty much everything. Now, I'm not going to go to every 100% thing, but I'm going to try to cover as much as you could possibly need to be a regular user of this. So I'm going to talk about the silo, I'm going to talk about these rewards, the revitalized stock, I'm going to talk about these unripe beans, and I'm going to talk about the field again. I'm going to talk about the barn, these fertilizer, and these sprouts, and so forth. Okay, so without further ado, let's swing over to that flowchart and let's go through it. Okay, so here we are on the flowchart, and here we have dolabill. He has some ETH or some USDC, and he wants to play this bean game, okay? So what does he do? He goes and buys some beans. Now, beans are a stable coin that are pegged to the US dollar, but this protocol doesn't want it to always be at $1. They want it to fluctuate above and below $1, but of course stay within a tight range, okay? Now, even USDC and USDT who want to stay at $1 don't stay at $1. Now, and I'm not saying that bean is comparable to USDC or USDT. However, that's the idea that, all stable coins do fluctuate off of peg a little bit. So what can he do with these beans? The first thing he can do with these beans is to kind of add them to the silo. Now, he could also take some beans that he bought and he could LP them here with this curve LP, which is beans, USDC, USDT, and DAI, and he could make an LP token on curve, and then he could silo that as well. Now, as soon as he silos either beans or bean LPs, then he is granted some seeds and some stock, okay? And these seeds will eventually grow into more stock, okay? Now, stock is one of the main uses of stock is to grant voting power on governance, okay? Now, as time goes by, whenever bean is above peg, then the silo will mint more beans and give them out, okay? So because the more beans that go into supply, then that can help to lower the peg as some people sell them, right? So as the beans come as they mint new beans, then 1/3, and it does say here a half, right? So right now it's 1/3, but in the future it will be 1/2, and in the past it was 1/2. So these beans come into effect. They're grown or they're minted, and 1/3 is given to everybody who holds stock, okay? And it's just kind of put there and ready. Now, you get new beans, then you get new seeds, right? And you can then plant these new seeds, okay, to grow more stock. And when you have some seeds that have grown some stock, then you can mow the stock and actually get stock, okay? So then you can then get more voting power and more of these beans that are minted will be yours, okay? Now, the next thing, as beans go below peg, as they sit below peg for a season is 1 hour. And again, this is every 1 hour these beans are minted. So every season, beans will be minted. So as beans are below peg within that one season, then it starts to produce some soil, okay? And the temperature starts to rise. Now, soil means that you can use beans. So take some beans, maybe you can buy the beans or you can pull the beans from the silo, right? So you can take the beans and you can add them to the field and be granted some pods. Now, pods are like bonds, okay? Now, basically, these beans are then burned, okay? As debt, you basically give it to them, and they burn the beans, reducing the supply and hopefully increasing the peg as a result. Now, these pods are based on the temperature. How many pods do you get is based on the temperature. As the temperature rises, so as the seasons pass and it continues to be below peg, the temperature keeps rising. And you will see the temperature illustrated as a percentage. So maybe it's 100%. So if you put one bean in, you get 100% more pods, okay? So you can take that into an idea. So the percentage of the temperature will distinguish how many extra pods you get. And in the future, at some time, then the pods will be redeemable for more beans. Okay, I hope this is clear, okay? Well, remember I told you that like before I told you, whenever beans are above peg, then beans are granted to the stockholders, right? But the other 1/3 is given to the pods. So there's a lineup of pods. So it's first come, first serve. So the people in the front of the line get their pods hatched and they can claim the beans, okay, from those pods, right? Now, if the beans are above peg for a long time, then the field will get flooded. Instead of producing massive amounts of soil and the temperature going to crazy stuff, they just flood the field, and the field then, all of the pods become hatchable. Okay, so they just, like, everyone can just get their pods, hatch their pods, and get their beans, and then they can sell them to lower the peg, right? Or they can just, play the game more, stick them all into the silo, right? Now, this is something I didn't talk about in my last video, but I'm pretty sure it was there at that time, so I'm going to explain now. While the beans are above peg, then you can convert your beans that you have in the silo into bean LPs in the silo without losing any of your seeds or stock. Because if you were to pull your beans out, then you lose all your seeds and all your stock. And that's like why people don't want to pull their beans out of the silo. So when it's above peg, then you can convert, okay? When it's below peg, then you can convert the other way. And this is essentially buying or selling beans, right? So it's helping to maintain the peg in that way. Now, a little while ago, something bad happened. I can't remember the date. You can find out by checking the website, but somebody exploited the governance. This governance used to be on-chain, and they basically, flash loan governance exploited the beans. And as a result, the solution that Beanstalk came up with as a community to solve this problem and to make the people whole again was this barn raise, selling of fertilizer. Okay, so the fertilizer started off with 77 million fertilizer to be purchased, okay, because that's how many dollars was taken from the people who were in the silo at that time. Now, if you want to buy some fertilizer, you have to take a look at the humidity. The humidity started off at 500%, and as things happened, it started to decrease, and it will eventually go down to a floor of 20%. So it's like these pods. If you buy the fertilizer, then you will get a boost of whatever the humidity is in sprouts. Okay, so when you buy some fertilizer, you get a fertilizer NFT, and you get a amount of sprouts equal to the humidity versus how many dollars you put into to buy this fertilizer, right? Now, that's where this other third comes. Remember I said 1/3 goes to the silo or to the stockholders, 1/3 goes to the pod holders, and then the other third goes to whoever has this these sprouts, okay? And then when all the sprouts are sold, so when all this 77 million is gone, then these sprouts, and all of them are like basically redeemed, so they've gotten their beans, then it will become 0, and we will have the 50-50, half to the pods and half to the silo. Now, another thing that happened, like I was in, dolabill here was in the silo when this pirate came along and decided to steal everyone's money. Then, because of that, they've also minted up some unripe beans and unripe bean LP tokens based on what you had inside. So you got a whole bunch of beans or a whole bunch of LP tokens equal to what you basically had inside the silo. Now, as people are selling these, buying this fertilizer, then this money that is used for this fertilizer is going to ripen these beans and these bean LPs and allow them to become worthy of money. Now, they're also on a vesting schedule, so you can check it. It's called chopping. So if you check the website, if you do have unripe beans or unripe bean LPs, then you can check the chopping percentage, and it's as these sprouts basically go away, then these percentage of how much you can redeem these for go down. So right now it's not 1-to-1 because there's a whole bunch of fertilizer left and a whole bunch of I think there's like 25% sold or something, and there's a whole bunch of sprouts as well. So as these sprouts start getting redeemed and this becomes closer to 0, if this were 0, then you would be able to redeem these 1-to-1 for all of the beans that were you basically lost. Okay, it could take quite a bit of time, but that's basically what it is. Okay, now another thing, these people who were exploited, they also had seeds and stock. Okay, and again, based on the fertilizer selling and the status of these sprouts, then these seeds become revitalized, and then when you revitalize your seeds, then you can get more stock or more on unrevitalized stock. And then when you have this unrevitalized stock, you can enroute them into real stock. Okay, so this is just basically how they're trying to make whole the people who were exploited by the pirate in this system here. So as you go into the website, you will see a whole bunch of buttons that say, oh, should I revitalize? Should I unroot? Should I mow? Should I plant? And all kinds of stuff like this. Now, this pretty much covers everything. Now, there's a little like finicky, like a little bit of like strangeness inside, like a few words you'll find with these sprouts and these unrooting and revitalized and unvitalized stock and seeds and so forth. But I think this covers it well enough that if you watch this a couple of times, you will really understand it. And then you go to the website and take a look at it. Look at the website after you watch the video and kind of read what it says, like inside the silo. If you have some of these ripe beans, you can click here, you can see the chop rate, you can see these rewards, the revitalized seeds and the revitalized stock and so forth. And I hope this has been useful, and thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.